It's a rainy Wednesday in Buffalo. Apparently, it's rainy all over the eastern seaboard because Game 4 of the ALCS is being postponed until tomorrow. For Yankee fans, that's good news because they don't have to get their ass kicked by the Astros again. But Russ, let's start off with some pre-show stuff.
All right. So first off, we'll talk about it quickly, but the NFL just announced that in their negotiations with the PA that they're negotiating a 17-game season. And there has never been a professional sport of the 4 majors that I can remember that in a normal season, because there's always anomalies. There's a game canceled because of this or something happened because of that. But the regularly scheduled season is usually even. Like the NFL went from 12 to 14 to 16, I believe.
Yep.
So where the hell they get 17 from?
It's more content for more money. That's all it is.
Yeah. So they're going to take away preseason?
I see that. I don't know. I mean,
I'm not talking about that.
Yeah, I wish they would. And see, that's the thing. They don't make that much money on preseason. They make the gate money. And the ratings,
gate money from the season ticket holders who can't dump the tickets. That's what it is.
Right, and it's a joke. It's an absolute joke. In Buffalo, they have like the family night.
Yes.
During the preseason, which means I'm pretty sure it means they don't sell beer in the stadium.
I think what it means is your family will go out there and see 2% of what our team really is.
And it's always the 4th game, or usually it's the 4th.
And your kids who are 5 years old will be happy about it because they're watching us in our jerseys and they don't know the difference.
Yeah, when you're watching a University of Buffalo quarterback who gets cut and doesn't get picked up. I mean, that's
By the way, speaking of that, quick segue to the XFL. There is a team out there that's drafted like 3 or 4 players from Buffalo. Just so you know.
And former Bills draft pick Cardell Jones.
Yeah.
Is apparently going to play for the DC team in the XFL. Yeah,
I got to rip them a little because I can't recall a league coming in, and this is their second go around, as you know, when they don't have either a televised draft or some sort of online big-time presence for a draft. This is how people get to know the league. They've been selling tickets for weeks.
Well, nobody's interested in seeing them draft construction workers.
Well, who's going to be interested in seeing them play then?
Nobody's going to be interested.
You got to try and get them from the minute go and bring up stories about these guys to make them interested, or they're not going to sell tickets.
I'll be more interested to see if CM Punk is one of the quarterbacks for the, like John Cena, Seth Rollins. I mean, bring all the WWE guys in.
Right. So the perils of the Deli. Let's talk about that.
Oh, yes. We have some stories here, folks. We got to get to these because they're really good.
I was a former deli worker. It was like when I was 17 years old. It was down the block from me. So in a way, it was a great job, and in a way, it's a horrible job, right? Because every nudnik from the neighborhood comes in and sees you. And I don't know. I didn't really like that much.
Hey, Russ, how you doing?
Right. The positives were if my mother bothered me for cold cuts, I can get them quickly. And also, I got like free food, and Snapple Soda had just come into play at that point, at least where I lived. It may have been around before that. And so I got hooked on like the cola and the cream, and they were, see-through sodas, they were clear. So that was cool. The bad part was one night, and I blame my mother for this. I want to say it was the 80 All-Star game, and I think that was Bo Jackson's first, right?
It was a little later than that.
81?
Maybe.
Yeah, so 81. So I'm getting ready to watch the All-Star game. 10 minutes before the All-Star game, my mother sends me to get like a pound of roast beef. And I look at her like, are you serious? And so I go there, and they're like, hey, slice it yourself, and end up slicing off the tip of my finger.
Jesus.
So then they had to throw away that roast beef. They gave me another roast beef, and I got home, and I just told my mother the way I was bleeding, and I like slammed the roast beef on the ground, and I went to go watch the game. What's your experience with the deli, Mike?
Yeah, first of all, I don't like bloody roast beef. I always like a little more cooked, especially when it's human blood. First of all, I don't understand the people who don't understand the concept of if there's a number at the deli, you pick one number.
That's it.
Yeah, somebody in front of me. First of all, somebody in front of me took like 4 numbers.
Why?
I don't know. It's like they're pieces of paper that are ripped. You can rip off. And okay, so this person like ripped off 72 through 75. So there's 72. Of course, they take 72. They order 6 different things, quarter pounds of the variety of different stuff. Thankfully, they didn't ask for like wafer thin, because that's what sets me off more.
Well, let's talk about this, right? So as a deli worker, the worst thing you could order thin was olive loaf, because all the pieces would just come falling out if you did it too thin.
Yeah, it would shred.
Yeah.
So this person orders like 6 different things. So it takes him 10 minutes. And then the person behind the counter says 73. And I tell them, says the person ripped off 4. No. Doesn't matter. They can't take my word for it, because if somebody in the past lied and tried to get in before somebody else, so they read 73, 73, and then 74, 70. And we get to 76, and I said, me, and I told you the 3 numbers were ripped off already. Needless to say, they didn't give me the greatest customer service after that. Yeah. And I swear to God, it was a day of misery when it came to customer service and waiting in line for things, because I went to Starbucks this morning and was standing in front of somebody who was ordering some concoction, and she decided she had to look up on Instagram apparently to find out what special pumpkin spice chai latte that Kim Kardashian had posted on her Instagram. And there are people waiting behind this person for 10 minutes to find this recipe. And Russ, it never fails. I'm ordering a friggin' small iced coffee that takes them 5 seconds, and somebody in front of me is ordering the most complex order in the history of the world.
This is just bad luck, Mike. The last thing I want to add about the deli, one last memory. Have you ever opened up like a number 10 can of black olives? The smell makes you want to vomit. It does.
Well, I never buy canned olives, because they're soaking in like this black water, and they basically have absolutely they're waterlogged, and they have absolutely no flavor. I'll go to the deli bar and get like olives that are in olive oil, and or like some
smelled like embalming fluid when you opened it.
No. They're not even passable to put on like pizza, because it's just like black cardboard or black styrofoam. It's absolutely friggin' gross.
Yeah, so delis, stop using them.
Okay. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Wednesday, October 16th, 2019.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Michael Agello, and I hate delis. And this is the Hockey Buzzcast.
I don't hate delis.
No, I don't hate delis. I just hate deli workers and deli patrons. And this is the Hockey Buzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. We had a number of games in the NHL last night. We'll start off, obviously, with the game that I was concentrating on. Not the Yankees game, by the way. The Leafs and the Minnesota Wild. First of all, Leafs win 4-2. Minnesota looked pretty horrific. They did play a good road first period.
They did.
Took a 1-0 lead like everybody else does on the Leafs, because the Leafs.
That's like a guarantee now, right, in life.
7 games, the Leafs have given up the opening goal in 6 of them. So the Leafs come out second period, they score 4 goals, offensive explosion, Tavares, Marner, Matthews, Morgan Riley with 4 assists. And then it was basically a good third period where they shut down the Wild. But it doesn't take a lot to shut down the Wild, Russ, because there's just not a lot there.
I'm not sure there's not a lot there.
At least it's not showing as a lot there.
The structure is not there. And I think that's the problem is, like, their power play didn't look bad, Mike. The puck movement and everything else, they have a good shot in Dumba on it. Like, it's not the issue. And Ryan Suter is certainly a hell of a defenseman, and their defense is pretty good. But the problem is, when the other team is not worried about their offense, then it creates problems for them and eventually for Devin Dubnyk, who made a lot of saves, right? He faced, by the second period, I think they were up to like 28, 30 shots already.
Yeah, I mean, he let in a couple bad goals, I thought. And I just have to mention this because he just posted this in the chat. Lance Norman says, Mike hates customers. Mike is a customer. Therefore, Mike hates himself.
The other thing I want to say about the Leafs, though, that goal by Tavares, the first one, was one of the most impressive goals I've ever seen, because he didn't take more than a second and a half to get the shot off. He had such force in that shot, and the fact that it went over Dubnik's shoulder high, it was crazy that he could score a goal that quickly and that fast. And so that was something that I was really impressed with. The thing that I wasn't that impressed with was, I don't know if the Leafs' bottom six is any good.
I mean, are you talking about their bottom six forwards? I actually think that their third line has been their most.
Well, maybe it's the fourth line that I'm picking on. Yeah.
Oh, no. It was, I mean, Mikheyev, Kerfoot, and it was Trevor Moore, but they moved Trevor Moore up.
They moved Trevor Moore.
Yeah, I mean, that line with Moore on it had been the most consistent line for the Leafs all season. Kapanen, I thought felt a little bit more at home playing the right side on that line. It was as opposed to the game against Detroit and some of the earlier lines, some of the earlier games, the top two lines actually produced. That was like the first time that they were all consistent and all on operating.
No, I like that, but I'm just going by the one game.
But yesterday, and that's the thing. The fourth line unit of Timashov, Shore, and Gauthier was probably the best line for the Leafs against Detroit. That's more commentary on how bad Detroit is.
I think so.
Now, Timashov, I think, is a good young player. I'd like to give him a chance. He probably, one of those guys is going to get sent down to the minors when Zach Hyman comes off the injured list.
Yeah.
And I didn't think they played particularly well yesterday because they were on the ice for that first goal. Gauthier was out to lunch on it.
Yeah, and that's what I'm basically getting at. It's just like this one game focus that I have. I'm not saying on the season.
Yeah. And more than likely tonight, second of back-to-back games, you're probably going to end up seeing Nick Patan and Spezza with this grand rotation that Babcock.
Again, why is there a rotation? I would like to see Nick Patan and Spezza in there all the time. Right. Why is there a rotation?
Because this is the Mike Babcock mind game. And this act is getting old, and I think people in Detroit got to know this pretty well. And this is the thing. He put in Martin Marincin in place of the demoted Rasmus Sandin yesterday. And Marincin and Hall played on the third pairing. They played okay, 12 minutes. As long as they do no harm, that's fine. When Travis Dermott comes back, Martin Marincin is probably the healthy scratch, and they probably send down Kevin Gravel. But their bottom pairing isn't the greatest, and that probably means that the top pairing guys are going to get over 20 minutes a night every night.
Yeah.
Tonight, they're playing the second of back-to-back games against Washington, and Babcock played Freddie Anderson last night, made a couple nice saves, one on Parise that was really good. But tonight they go into Washington, second of back-to-back, a tired team, and they play Michael Hutchinson. And that's the thing. Michael Hutchinson with a tired team in front of him against one of the best teams in the NHL. And when they lose tonight, if they lose, Mike Babcock will blame Michael Hutchinson, which is just stupid.
I mean, that's the way it is in Leafland, though. It's been going like this for a while. But again, yesterday's win was good, just for the sense that you got goals from Tavares and Matthews, and that's what you're supposed to get. And so that did work out yesterday.
Now, let me ask you this, and as the impartial person when it comes to the Leafs, I know that Pierre LeBrun mentioned this earlier this week, and we know the situation with them with the 3 UFA defensemen. They're definitely not going to be able to sign all 3. They're probably not going to be able to sign either, probably 2 of them. They probably are going to sign 1. And LeBron's assertion is that they should sign Muzzin. And I agree, because I think Muzzin, at 30 years old, they can sell on a shorter term deal. They can give him a raise, but it's not going to be something that'll kill them.
Give Muzzin 4 years.
Yeah, I'd give Muzzin 4 years at 5 to 5.5. Yep. And I think he would take that. And I think they could, that, now if they give him 5.5, he'd be making more than Morgan Riley, but Morgan Riley in 2 years is going to make more than him anyway. So that's just what happens. But they don't have anybody. Ceci or Barry do not play the type of game that Muzzin plays. And the Leafs really have nobody in the organization who plays physically and is big like Muzzin. So I think that's workable. I don't see how they can sign Barry for what he's apparently going to ask in free agency, and I don't think they want to spend the money on Ceci. So I think
I don't know about that. See, I'm gonna fight the Ceci fight here, because he's very good with his stick and his eye-hand coordination, and he does strip the puck well. And there was a play in that game yesterday where there was a puck shot high, and he was able to corral it down without it being a high stick and get it going the other way and give the Leafs some offense. Did you see that play with
I did.
And you know, that's not an easy play for any hockey player to make. And so I was pretty impressed that Ceci can do that. And like I said, he's a good skater. He's pretty good gap control, and he definitely can move the puck. I think based on what they have coming, based on his age, they should sign him.
Well, it depends on what he's going to look for. I mean,
I think they have to try.
Well, I'm sure they'll try. I'm sure they'll ask, but it's a question of if I'm ranking them in terms of what I have to pay them and the likelihood of them taking it. I think, and the quality of the defenseman, I think it's Muzzin, then Barry, then Ceci. And that's not saying Ceci isn't good, because people were trying to blame Morgan Riley's problems early in the season on the fact that he was paired with Ceci. That mostly was coming from the analytics crowd, which I think are stupid because they hate Ceci. Yeah. But it wasn't that. I think it was just Riley was playing bad. He played great last night.
Yeah, he was playing bad, and I think he got his feet held to the fire a little bit. People have been calling him out a little bit, and he responded. That's all good. The thing you worry about with the Leafs is the obvious. Are they going to end up in third again? And if they keep giving up the first goal in the game, you can't get through the playoffs that way. Your luck will run out eventually.
Right. Okay. Other games last night. The Tampa Bay Lightning beat Montreal 3-1. Again, I'm not
a comfortable win, isn't it, for Tampa? Like, that's how they get so many points, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of the Canadians, as we know, but I mean, it was again that big line that John Cooper put together: Stamkos, Point, and Kucherov. They combined on the first two goals, Braden Coburn's goal, and Stamkos scored his fourth of the year. Then get an insurance marker from Tyler Johnson.
Wow.
I mean, this is the thing. Tampa Bay started off a little slow, a little sluggish. Everybody has the mindset of that team being a 128-point team like they were last year.
Nah.
I think they realize they realize the same thing that the Capitals did in 2016, I think it was, when they won the President's Trophy. The President's Trophy is meaningless. It really is. It's great if you win the President's Trophy and then win the Stanley Cup, but it's really meaningless. You don't get anything other than home ice advantage, and that's gone in one bad performance at home. So do they really, really want to go out sort of balls out and win 60 games during the regular season and then have nothing in the tank when the playoffs come? And that, I think, they'll win their share of games. They'll probably still finish first in the Atlantic.
They'll have 100-something points. They will.
But they're not going to go all out,
right,
to be the President's Trophy winner like Washington did the following year, and then they had playoff success.
Right, I agree. They're not going to do that. And this, like I said, this is a comfortable win for Tampa. There's a fair amount of good teams in this league, and then there's a fair amount of teams when you know you play them, your odds of winning are pretty good, and your odds of coming out of there not injured are very good. And Montreal is one of those teams.
Yeah, and here you go. Montreal, 1 goal on 34 shots.
Yeah.
And that is the Montreal that we expected. Do we expect Byron, Armia, Lehkonen to score at a point per game pace? If they do, they're gonna make the playoffs, no problem. The problem is that they've got Max Domi, they've got Drouin if Drouin is right. They have 1 or 2 other guys. If Tatar repeats what he did last year, and you're going to possibly see a growth in guys like Kotkaniemi, and they have 2 really good defensemen. They don't have enough offense. And
right. If Suzuki and Paling were up and they were ready, different story. So maybe next year is that year. But right now, they're still waiting on those guys. They don't have enough offense.
Right, and that was the whole motivation behind the 5-year contract offer to Aho, the offer sheet, because they knew they didn't have enough offense, but they didn't do anything after that to address that lack of offense. So why would you expect anything different than what happened last year, which is they'll be competitive and they'll miss the playoffs?
90 points, won't make it.
Yeah. The Arizona Coyotes continue their winning ways with a 4-2 victory over the Winnipeg Jets. Now, there was a report yesterday, and again, we don't know what's going on. We'll talk about the game in a second, but I believe it was Pierre LeBrun that reported, or Darren Draker, that reported that Byfuglien, it's starting to look like Byfuglien will come back. But they're cautiously optimistic that he will return. And again, we talked about the Jets defense with Peter. I mean, that is a big key. If they get Byfuglien back and he's anywhere close to being the Byfuglien of a year ago or 2 years ago, then their fortunes improve to a likely playoff team. If they have to continue to play like this with, Vinny Heinola and Kulikov and Morrissey and Kulikov are probably their best two defensemen. And then, it's going to be a struggle for them.
What I'll say about Arizona is, they're making sure they play Connor Garland more. He's doing a lot of their dirty work now. And I think he scored again, right?
Yes, he did. Third goal.
And so that's the kind of guys that they need. And I think Dvorak had 2 goals. So they had a bit of an awakening of their offense, which is good because they couldn't keep it going the way they were going. So I'm happy to see that the offense was going right. I think Kempner was in there and seemed to have a good game. And good for Rick Tocchet. At least if the offense is waking up, they can be competitive.
Yeah. Let's see. Nick Schmaltz had a goal and an assist.
Yeah, Nick Schmaltz was another one that woke up that I was talking about the day before. Like he got the center with assists. Yeah,
goal and 2 assists.
Yeah, you have to have a center that gets assists. Just getting goals isn't good enough when they need that. So no, that was a good game for them.
And Kemper made 38 saves. Now, and this is the thing. Schmaltz did perform well in a very limited window before he had the season-ending surgery with the Coyotes. Again, the big question here is health. If they can stay healthy, but
I think people should know what he is. He's a good, not great player. Where Strome was a good but could be great player. Like that's what you traded out on. You went for, all right, we at least know we're getting a good, safe player here who could play the position, play at the NHL level. We know we're trading the other guy with upside, and we hope that upside doesn't really come back to haunt us, but it probably is.
I just have to. Mark Elias in the chat says John Hines will be out in a couple weeks, meaning the New Jersey coach John Hines, and we'll talk about that. But he spelled it like John, like Hines 57, and John Hines was a senator from Pennsylvania who died in a plane crash. So he's been out for more than a few years. Sorry about that. Okay, so next game, Calgary beats the Flyers 3-1. Now I don't know if you saw any of this game, Russ.
I did. I saw all of it.
Okay, so what was the story here?
For me, and Anthony disagrees with me a little because the sample size is small. This is the same old road Flyer that we're used to seeing with their core group. Shane Gostisbehere was lost in this game. It was maybe the worst game I've ever seen him play, and that's saying something. It was awful. He couldn't do anything for anyone. That was bad. Voracek on the third line was sort of like, you know how if you catch a fish and you're trying to unhook it and it's flapping around on the boat? That's what Voracek was doing all game.
Jeez.
But he actually was shooting a little bit because he realized, my God, I'm on a line with like Michael Raffel and Scott Lawton. Actually, no, it was Lawton and Pitlick. I better shoot here. And so he did, but he was just like robotic shooting. He wasn't even putting anything creative on net. Chris Stewart got in there and they were making like great measures on the broadcast to point out every little detail that he might have done to ease his, transition in. And near the beginning of the game, there was a point where he tried to deflect the puck and it missed the net. And they were like, oh, that was close. It could have been a goal. And he didn't get any registered shots on goal. He got 9 minutes of ice time. He had 3 hits. I'm not sure he did a lot for them. And defensively, I saw him get beat a couple times. So I'm not sure. And AD said he's not going to play every game, and he can't. Like, he's just not an every game player. You want to play him once in a while, that's fine. And I think at one point, him and Pitlick were together because I think they were trying to rekindle the Wild magic. There's no magic there. Trust me when I tell you that's not the case. This is a game where it's easy to say, well, look at the Flyers' schedule. They had to go 13,000 miles, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. This is why they didn't play well. But you know what? You can't keep making excuses. This is a new coach. They've got some new players in there. And aside from JVR's, 3 really good shots on net, which, again, nobody was there to support him in the crease. And so Rittich was able to corral that in. Aside from that, JVR was lost a lot in that game. And so, you look at this game and it's like 3-1 doesn't seem bad. All right, the schedule sucks. We'll go into Edmonton. We hope to get a point in Edmonton. And Edmonton could blow them out. I mean, I don't know what will happen in this game, but I would be worried about it from a speed standpoint and a puck moving standpoint from the Flyers. And so it'll be interesting to see the lineup that they field. Carter Hart's going to play, in front of his home crowd. You know how that goes. It's either great or it's not. So there's usually no in between on that. So we'll see how that works out. Carson Twarynski was in front of his home crowd yesterday. That didn't matter. So, and he didn't play a bad game. It's just, this is definitely a team where, you look at their bottom six, and if you take Jake Voracek out and you're looking at Pitlick and Lawton and Raffle, and, I can start naming the guys, there's no real threats to score there other than Voracek, who now seems to be out of his element when he's asked to create offense on his own. Because I think we've all realized he can't really do that.
David Rittich with 21 saves last night. Rittich has played
a goal too at the end, Mike.
Yeah, I did see that. But the thing is, all but one game, it's not been a 1A, 1B scenario with Talbot. It's been Rittich as the number one.
Yeah.
I sort of question that a little bit, but I guess they want to. I guess they want to find out whether he can do it because they know that Talbot can. Maybe that's what they're doing.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, the thing about Calgary is, and this is where I think Philly got it wrong on the matchups. You went with Chris Stewart because you felt like you had to worry about Milan Lucic. Milan Lucic, all he did was nail Matt Niskanen once. He didn't do anything. So you played a guy and took up a roster spot and slowed your team down for no reason. See, that's where in today's NHL, you're not always going to get a fight. 5 years ago, you would have, right? 5 years ago, you put those two guys out. It was guaranteed you were getting a fight. Now you're not. So you have to really be careful about playing guys like that.
Yeah, but the problem with that deal was, and I've heard a lot of commentary on it. They had to get Neil out of. I
get it.
And there was nobody else that was interested in him with the term and the amount, and it was beneficial for Calgary and beneficial for Edmonton in terms of change of scenery, but we all know that Lucic has nothing left.
You know what Milan Lucic looks like, and it's not fair to say, but like Michael Ruzioni when he was in the NHL. That's sort of where he's at.
Oh my God, and that's bad. I remember that.
Yeah.
Okay, 5-1. Vancouver beats the Detroit Dead Things. I know they got
be nice.
I know. Well, hey, they dominated the league for 20 years. They deserve to go back to that thing for a little while. And it's going to be a long road to hoe for Steve Yzerman. I think when he took that job. But Vancouver, they had 2 goals out of JT Miller. Score 5 straight. Stetcher, Edler, Pedersen, and the Miller with 2. Thatcher Demko starts in goal for them after Markstrom had to take a week leave of absence for some personal issue. The Canucks are playing well.
And I like Demko. I think he's one of the better up-and-coming goalies in this league.
Yeah, no. I was in drafting in a Stratomatic league that I'm in, and I had to choose between Cal Peterson and Thatcher Demko, and I think both of them are going to be good. I ended up taking Peterson because I look at the LA situation and think that Quick is going to end up getting traded.
Right.
And Markstrom is probably going to be the number one starter for them all year, and Demko might get 20 to 25 games, but he's definitely going to be their goalie of the future. I think both of those guys are. But with Vancouver, I think it's going to be more than anything. It's going to be the important thing is going to be they're going to score. We know that Pedersen's going to score. We know that Besser is going to score. Yep. If they get supporting offense from guys like Horvat and Miller, that's all fine and good. It's defensively, whether they can stick into games defensively. And if they can do that, then I think that they could be a playoff team. If they can't, then I think Travis Green might be in trouble at the end of the year.
One of those teams that they're going to look good for a while. They're going to look bad for a while. They'll give it a go at the end, and they probably come up short. They're going to be one of those teams.
Now I didn't see any of this game, but I know it was purported to be the best matchup of the night. It was Vegas and Nashville, and the Preds win 5-2. Kyle Turris actually scores a goal. Kyle Turris is playing fourth line center for. Yeah, it's unbelievable. Now, I did see that Philip Forsberg got injured in that game. There was some indication.
He always gets injured, man.
What's that?
He always gets injured now.
Yeah, and they had placed Daniel Carr on waivers, and I saw some commentary that they're very fortunate that Carr cleared waivers because they kept him with the team because Forsberg got hurt.
Right.
Now I don't know the severity of the injury. I just seen that he got hurt near the end of the game, and that they weren't sure of the extent of the injury. But even though they've gotten off to a great start, and even though
Rene against Fleury.
What's that?
Was that Rene against Fleury?
It was Fleury against Rene. Yes.
Yeah. So that's the worry now. How many of these games that Marc-Andre Fleury is going to play because you don't have a backup that are going to take a toll later in the season? That's what I wonder.
Yeah, and with the Predators, I mean, depending on how long Forsberg is out, I mean, their high core group, the Johansson, Duchesne, Forsberg, Arvidsson, they were scoring really well. You lose one of them, it's going to be tougher for everybody to pick up the slack, and they don't have a great deal of depth offensively, that team.
Right. I mean, just to and not to pick on him because I think he's a good guy. I've interviewed him a bunch of times. Oscar Dance only played one game with the Wolves, and his goals against is 7.11 and a 720 save percentage. Are you going to use him for a game?
I mean, they have to at some point. They can't play Fleury in back-to-backs. I mean,
a couple of years ago when things were magical, he had 4 games and had a 946 save percentage, and then he had a good year with Chicago. Last year he did have a good year with Chicago, but this year he didn't get off to a good start. So, and they're not the same defensively, and I have a feeling that's going to affect him. Like, that's a game you probably should have played, Dansk, but they didn't. And because you would rather play Fleury against the teams you know you're going to win, right?
Well, that's the Babcock theory. Play your starter against a team.
I think this team has to do it that way, though.
Right.
Because they don't have a guaranteed backup.
True.
Because, look, honestly, for as long as it takes Subban to get it together, I'm assuming Dansk is going to play 2 games.
Well, with Subban, apparently it's an injury because he didn't get sent down to the AHL. He's out with an LBI.
All right, so he's got an injury. So you figure, what's Dansk going to play? 2 games
at most.
At most, yeah.
Yeah, I mean he should play back-to-backs.
Right.
I mean, they can get away. They can get away with playing Fleury. If they have, and I think I looked at their schedule. I think next week, like every game is like there's a game on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. There is a back-to-back there, and in the back-to-back, they're going to have to play the backup.
Right.
Okay. So, final game was Carolina and the LA Kings. Peter Mrazek with a 31 save shutout. Martin Necas and Sebastian Aho with the goals. The Carolina Hurricanes.
Which Sebastian Aho is that?
The good Sebastian Aho.
The good Aho got off the
forward Sebastian Aho, the one that earned an offer sheet. Now Carolina leads the NHL. I believe it's 13 points.
Yep.
Okay, I'm still going to say it. I'm still not convinced.
I'm still not convinced either. This seemed like a fairly routine game for them, which it should be. So what else could I say about it? Good for Mrazek. Let's see him put 4 or 5 or 6 together. That's all.
Yeah. Okay, so let's discuss that stuff that got out earlier this morning regarding the Devils. The Devils.
Yeah, I saw a tweet from Abby Mastracco, and that's what got me interested in it.
And now others like John Shannon and Elliot Friedman have been reporting, and the Devils actually tweeted out that Tom Fitzgerald, who was their assistant general manager, is now going down to help out John Hines behind the bench as an assistant. Now, I don't recall whether Fitzgerald has any kind of coaching experience. I know that he's been an assistant in New Jersey, in Pittsburgh, but I don't remember him being a coach. If he has been in the past, then I'm not saying that he hasn't been. I just don't recall it. This smacks to me, Russ, and there's been some talk. I know that on the insider panel on TSN yesterday, that Pierre LeBrun, Bob McKenzie, and Darren Drager all said that there were situations around the league like Dallas, Minnesota, and New Jersey where nothing was going to be rushed into in terms of a coaching change. I don't really buy that, because to me this sounds like a bit of a we're going to review things. We want to see somebody who have somebody who has firsthand knowledge. And not a panic move, but a precursor to something being changed.
Well, yeah, it's a precursor, and that's the idea, is what do you call, quick or fast or imminent? But this is a pretty dramatic move, from the sense that they want somebody else to see what's going on at practice, during games. You know what's happening here. Unless they put together a really good win streak and Tom Fitzgerald decides to go back upstairs, John Hines will eventually get fired. Like, that's just, the writing is on the wall. And it was almost on the wall last year. So this year we knew there were expectations. Taylor Hall's maybe signing with the team is hanging in the balance. Mike, I don't think we have more than 5. I don't think Hines could lose 5 more games in the next 10 without him being fired. Like, I think it's that close.
Well, I mean, they don't have a victory. They've looked terrible. They've blown leads in two of the games so far. They're not getting great goaltending. The new guys they brought in, like Subban and Simmons, have underperformed. Jack Hughes is a talent, but they seem to be sort of misusing him. And I know that we've commented on how the way Hines is handling Hughes is similar to how Melrose was handling Stamkos in his rookie year, and Melrose got fired in the first month.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, I would not expect. That's where I disagree. Respectfully disagree with McKenzie, LeBrun, and Drager. Yeah. I think that there is an imminent move here. I don't think it's going to be.
It's not going to be tomorrow.
Yeah, no, it's not going to be tomorrow, but it's not going to be 6 to 8 weeks. It's going to be, if they keep losing like this, I wouldn't be surprised if John Hines got fired in the first week of November. You need to see us
before then. If they fire off 4 or 5 more losses, that's going to be a breaking point.
Yeah. Just scanning through the news here. John Tortorella, Columbus Blue Jackets head coach, had a procedure to remove skin cancer growth. I'm not sure how long, if any, time he's going to miss. Because
probably won't. I mean, I had one removed right from here, and the guy did a pretty good job. And
well, that's because you're sitting in front of the window all the time.
I don't go to the beach. You'd be surprised how little.
Neither do I.
I know, but it's what you get. I did go to the beach a lot as a youngster, but I did use sunscreen. They're probably starting at the age of 20. A lot of it's heredity, but we do wish John well. But he'll be back quick.
Now, and I'm not getting political here, but I just needed to mention this because the St. Louis Blues visited the White House, and there was no situation like last year where Devontae Smith-Pelly and a couple other players decided they were going to make a political statement and not go to the White House. That's why, I just, honestly, you can disagree like Tim Thomas did with Obama.
Right.
And just not go. And that made news, like Smith-Pelly, and I can't remember, it was one other player who decided not to go.
Uh-huh.
There was no hubbub whatsoever about the Blues going. They just went. I'm sure there are some players on the team that don't like Trump, but they went. They had that sort of goofy event, like Trump makes some stupid joke that he doesn't know hockey.
Where they were like auctioning off the Stanley Cup. Steve Wino posted a video where they were like auctioning off the Stanley Cup, like Trump was going to buy it, and I didn't get it. I don't know what the context is, but it just looked dumb. They did it in the Rose Garden. I covered twice out of the White House, right? So I think one of the times there was an event in the Rose Garden because Michelle Obama had something earlier with like kids and exercise and such. So we were out there. And look, yesterday was fine. The one biting commentary that I did see online, which I found to be interesting, was they only have one American on the team. The rest are Canadian.
Yeah. And that's why Don Cherry loves them so much. Good Canadian boys on that team.
So I kind of wonder if that played into it, if they had more Americans with, so anyhow, that's where I'm going with that.
Well, but I mean,
they really were making a point of it, and I forget which website did it, but it was a Canadian website that did it.
Well, I'm surprised that CNN and MSNBC didn't start an impeachment scandal, because there are a couple Russians on the Blues, like Tarasenko and Barbashev. So we could say that they're agents for Vladimir Putin.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. All right, we'll take some questions in the chat. I did see something earlier, but let me scroll back here. It was a question about Taylor Hall. Oh, Taylor Hall is trade bait. First of all, do you believe that a decision will be made on Taylor Hall, say, before the first of the year, before New Year's?
If they keep losing, yeah, there will. Yeah, because if it becomes evident to them that they can't get a deal going and they're on the edge of not making the playoffs, they're going to trade him. Sure, up and down that road, he'll trade him.
Yeah, NASCAR in the chat says 16 Canadian players on the Blues. Joe Morello asks, what are your thoughts? And this has been rumored. I know that Igor Aranko mentioned it on Twitter yesterday. What are your thoughts on Kravtsov, the first-round pick of the Rangers, being rumored to go back to the KHL? Now, let me just specify. Larry Brooks tweeted late this morning that he had heard nothing of this. So right now it's just speculation. There is a European assignment clause in Kravtsov's contract, and he's playing in Hartford right now. And it might be a situation where Kravtsov can make more money playing in the KHL than playing in the AHL, and especially if he thinks that the Rangers are going to put him down there for the entire year. Obviously, they want to have a more hands-on situation and get him acclimated to North America. But if he's missing home, or if he thinks he can learn just as much playing in Russia, then
he wants to make money,
then that's a factor as well.
I mean, that's why there are those European outs. We don't know what's going to happen with this. I've asked, I have a source, and I haven't gotten any word back. So I'm going to be in the side of Larry right now, saying there's nothing concrete with this. Shesterkin is there with them, so we can't say that there's nobody rushing for him to sort of hang out with, because there is, and to room with. So there's not that issue. The issue is going to be, can he stick out a year in the AHL if they decide they can't use him at the NHL level? But again, I don't know if this Brendan Smith thing is going to last all year. I don't think he's Ron Greshner, where Greshner got moved to forward and scored 20 goals, on the wing. I don't think that's going to happen. He has 2 points, but I don't think that's going to last. And I think that's a spot that Kravtsov could get if he puts together 10 good games in the AHL. So let's see.
All right. Beachov asks, do you think the Flyers will move Shane Gostisbehere? He's not looking too great.
I think they'll give it a little more time, but if he continues to sag, they're going to move him, and they're going to move him selling low. But teams know what he's capable of, and teams will still want him. So I do think the chances of him getting traded have increased a lot.
Okay. It's one probably geared more towards me, but definitely you can have an opinion on it. And Chestnut says, when Zach Hyman comes back, any chance Kapanen gets traded as Moore is outplaying him? All right, first on Hyman. Hyman's coming back from an ACL injury. More than likely, he's going to get put back with Tavares and Marner. But you cannot logically expect Zach Hyman to step back in the lineup and play like Zach Hyman has played in the past, especially since he plays sort of a rough and tumble along the boards game coming off an ACL injury. It's going to take him time. He may end up getting demoted to a lower line until he's really back up to speed. So I don't think they're moving Kapanen, at least not right away. They've got him on a fairly economical $3.2 million deal for 3 years. I continue to say, like, if they make a trade, I think they're going to keep the roster the way it is this year. And if they do make a trade, either at the deadline or in the summer, and more than likely the motivation for that would be to open up space to sign one of the defensemen. The guy that makes most sense to trade is Nylander, because Nylander makes $7 million and Kapanen makes half as much. Kapanen is not half as good a player as Nylander. Nylander is a better player, but Kapanen is, I think, more of a top 9 role player, speedy guy, penalty killer. And I think he's worth the money that they're paying him. I'm not sure Nylander is, and they might need that cap space. So I think they're keeping Kapanen. They like Trevor Moore a lot. They're concerned about Hyman coming back too early, so they take it slow. But I don't think they're trading Kapanen.
I think the only way they trade Kapanen is if they feel that they're missing a certain type of player, offense or defense, that could put them over the top, and if some team is willing to give them that player, and that player's got like a 1 or 2 years left on their deal, and they can move Kapanen for that, they might consider it. Otherwise, I don't think they're moving him either.
Okay, Mark asks, do you believe that Jim Montgomery is on the hot seat? I personally do not.
I do not.
I know that when we did the coaches' odds of who was going to get fired first, Montgomery seemed to be the highest. I think he was the highest at 4-1, and I don't get that because the guy got to the second round of the playoffs. Now, I know they invested a lot of money. They signed players. They brought in Pavelski. They brought in Corey Perry, and they've gotten off to a slow start.
Jim Nill is not a quick triggery kind of guy in anything he does.
Right. And then even if there was a coach out there that Nill really liked, like somebody, I know Nill was a former Detroit assistant GM.
Right.
If, for example, Babcock was out there, I still don't think he'd be firing Montgomery. No. A month after, they were 1 goal away from getting to the conference final.
Right.
They were not a disappointment last year.
Players need to step up. Ben and Seguin need to step up.
Right. Esmir asks, what are your thoughts on the Line A rumors involving the Islanders?
No, 0.
Yeah, I know that Eck reported that. I don't buy it simply because I think the Jets are going to do what they did with Trouba in a similar situation. They're going to take the 2 years. They're going to pay him. They're going to hope that Line A scores 50 goals and then deal with it at that point.
Right.
What they have to be concerned with is the same thing that happened with Trouba, which is Trouba walked his way closer and closer to UFA.
Well, we all knew Trouba was never staying, right? Like you could go rewind our shows from the very beginning of shows that we were doing, and none of us ever believed he was staying. We heard reports like, hey, he might stay after they had that really good year. And when he didn't get signed, we knew, you know what? He was always going to leave. I don't think it's that settled with Line A at all.
Yeah, and again, more than likely, any target for any trade involving the Jets is for a defenseman up because
honestly, what are the Islanders going to give him? Matt Barzal, what are they going to give him?
Yeah, I mean, it would have to include Dobson and probably a really good forward. And I don't know if that's beneficial to the Islanders.
It's not.
Yeah, so let's see. Any more questions? Mark saying he thinks Jim Nill should get axed and not just Montgomery. I don't.
It's possible that could happen down the road, but it won't happen this year. Not until the end of the season. And if they had a horrible season, they might look at that. But again, even Dallas ownership, that ownership doesn't make big moves on their management. Go back and look.
Yeah, Beachov asked, does Buffalo keep it up or is this deja vu? I think it's closer to deja vu. I think they're better than they were last year, but they're not as good as they're playing right now. They're hot.
No, I mean, they have a ridiculous power play right now. They're getting the message of the coach. It's working. Will it work like this all year? No, I don't think so.
James in the chat says the Leafs will be over the cap this year. They can't be over the cap. If you're over the cap, you're not allowed to go over the cap.
Correct.
So that can't happen.
Remember, the cap changes daily.
Right. Now, what may happen, and remember, they implemented almost $13 million of LTIR, and they factored in when Dermott and when Hyman return, more than likely you're going to see a couple players they're at 23 players right now. So a couple players are getting sent down to the minors. That probably means guys like Nick Shore and probably Kevin Gravel gets sent to the minors.
Right.
Yeah, that's what happens. Joe Morello asks, Russ, your thoughts on Larry Brooks' article on Trouba not going up against top guns like McDavid in their last game?
I don't think it means anything. I think that's just what the coach did that game. I don't think there's anything to worry about. I think Larry's just pressing that button that he knows he can get Ranger fans panicky on.
Okay. Couple more questions. Shane Holland, what is your take on Andre Burakovsky in Colorado? Do you think he will boom or bust? Oh, I like Burakovsky in Washington. He was a victim sort of the minutes game there. I mean, he wasn't a top 6 guy. So he didn't get as many minutes as he possibly could. In Colorado, they were looking for depth after that Ranton and McKinnon Landeskog line. Burakovsky will benefit from that. I'm not sure if he's playing with Kadri or not, but he's playing in a top 6, top 9 role, and he's got the talent. I think he could score 25 to 30 goals there.
Yeah, I think he could score 25 goals. He can get as high as 55 points. That's what I would call a boom for him, because he's gotten nowhere near that with the Capitals, and right now he's a point a game with them. So he's not going to be a point-a-game player, but I think he could get 55 points, maybe even 60. I think that's where you're drawing the line, but I think you're right about goals. I think he's right in that ballpark.
Okay. All right. Good show, guys. We'll be back tomorrow with another edition of the Hockey Buzzcast. For Russ Cohen, I'm Michael Agello. Thanks for watching, and remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.